Lots to get into as we've got a brand new season of college football upon us. Here we go. First of all, best time of year. This is no doubt the best time of year. Everybody's got that hope and optimism that, like, this is the year that we're going to get there. We're going to go to the college football playoff, and I love it. A lot of great players returning. But before we actually get into my top 10 teams going into this 2023 season, we do have to put a button on what was a wild offseason. And that offseason was dominated by conference realignment. And so let's recap and just make sure that we're all on the same page in terms of what went on and why it went on. These were the teams that ended up making the announcement that they will be moving conferences at the end of next year and into 2024. Washington and Oregon, they're going to head to the Big Ten, while Arizona State, Arizona, Colorado, and Utah, the four corner schools, if you will, are all headed to the Big 12. Now, let's take a look at how we got here. Why is this happening? Everyone always just immediately blames, well, it's just the almighty dollar and greed and all this. Well, yes and no. Let's actually take a step further back and realize that the Pac-12, which all of these teams play in this year, and USC and UCLA, who left a year ago, the Pac-12, they made several decisions over the course of the last 10 and 12 years that led to their own demise. Okay? And so that lack of leadership in the conference ended up materializing into what we've seen over the course of the last two off seasons, and in particular late in this last off season, in which all of these six schools are going to leave conferences. If you look at what happened over the last decade, you'll see that the Pac-12 made a poor decision with their own network. A lot of people have talked about this, where they didn't get the distribution that they needed. And because of that, the value and the revenue distribution was not there per school. When that happened, then the teams didn't get the revenue nor the exposure that they expected or needed. At that point, they've got to make a decision. Okay. And at that moment, there's a lot that had already gone on in college football. Because remember, it's not just these moves that have happened. If you take a look at what's gone on across college football, it was actually the last in a series of dominoes that started when Texas and Oklahoma said that they were going to move from the Big 12 into the SEC. So now we start to look at the entire landscape of the Power Five. The Big Ten Conference is going to move to 18 total teams, with 4 new West Coast teams coming in. They're not losing anybody. The SEC is going to 16 with Oklahoma and Texas. They're not losing anybody. The Big 12 is gaining 4, but losing 2, but they also added 4. They're going to be at 16 because of everything that's gone on over the last couple of years. The ACC is standing pat, and the Pac-12, unfortunately, is down to 4. 8 of the 12 teams are leaving, and they are on life support at this point. When OU and Texas went to the SEC, then teams like USC, they looked at the landscape and they thought to themselves, how are we going to compete at the top end unless we're in a conference in which is going to afford us the same type of distribution that those schools are getting? So they felt like they had to go to the Big Ten. When that happened, the Pac-12 and the Big 12 had a decision to make. And this is the main point of what went on just a few weeks ago. There was one television deal left because the entire pie had been taken up by the NFL, by the Big Ten, by the SEC. And so all the linear networks basically had enough money for one college conference to get a new television deal. The Big 12 beat the Pac-12 to that deal. They secured their rights on linear television with a deal between Fox and ESPN. When that happened, the Pac-12 was unfortunately out of luck. They tried to cobble together a streaming deal, but that streaming deal was way too similar to that deal that I talked about in terms of their own network, where they were relying on subscribers and interest to drive value, and they had learned their lesson from a decade ago. That didn't work. They declined it, and at that point, it became trying to find a lifeboat off of the Titanic. So why did we get here? A long string of dominoes. It wasn't one decision. It was a series of decisions that led to this moment in which the Pac-12 is on life support, and we've got mega conferences now throughout college football. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoy that clip, make sure you click subscribe somewhere down here. From game highlights to exclusive interviews and rankings, we've got everything you need as a college football fan right here. College football on Fox.